Hey, everybody. How did you like that countdown clock? It was up. It's like a functionality in my streaming software. And I was like, I'm going to use that today. So I did. I don't know. It was kind of silly, kind of funny, but I did anyway. So, how's everybody doing? I hope good. Happy Saturday morning to everybody. Sorry, I have my other camera kind of in the shot right here. So I know I was fancy pants. It was kind of funny. So I want to greet everybody and welcome you to this Saturday broadcast for the Great Beat Extravaganza. It's great to have you all here. I'm going to move my soldering water, so my quench water, so I don't accidentally throw it all over everything, right? So, because I'll do that, right? I'll just chuck it right over. So I'm broadcasting right into the Great Beat Extravaganza today, right on Facebook. But I've also got a couple of other destinations that are streaming around. I'm on my YouTube channel, my Kate Richbourg YouTube channel. And if you're watching on either my YouTube channel or the YouTube channel for the Great Beat Extravaganza, why don't you take this moment right now to click that subscribe button? I think it's somewhere over here, I think. And you'll be notified every time we go live and every time there's new content posted into the Great Beat Extravaganza or into my YouTube channel for Kate Richbourg. I'm also streaming in my group, Create with Kate Richbourg. You're more than welcome to go join me over there. I'd love to see you. And I've retooled my Facebook page, my professional page. Some of you may know that earlier, or I was going to say earlier this year, but it was actually in 2020. One of the lovely, many lovely things that happened in 2020. My business Facebook page actually got hacked and deleted, which was a real bummer because I had almost 10 years of content there on that page. So it was kind of a bummer, but I have kind of pulled it all back together and started a new one. So you can find me over there on Kate Richbourg Jewelry Educator. I'd love to have you give it a follow. And of course, you can find me all over the place, but I'd love it if you went to Instagram and followed me at BeadKate. My Facebook page, or my group there, my private group is Create with Kate Richbourg. And of course, you can like and subscribe me at Kate Richbourg on YouTube. And at my website, of course, katerichbourg.com. And you can find everything I'm doing there. Lots of fun stuff coming up. So that's what I've got. Let me get back to your comments there. I can see you all. And I wanted to, it looks like Lorraine, you said that your screen was frozen on Facebook. Jump back out and jump back in. I've got a Facebook simulcast going on over here so I can make sure and see it. So if you're having trouble on any of your platforms at any time when you're watching social streams, jump back out and then jump back into the stream. That'll usually do it. Also, sometimes if I'm watching on my phone and I'm streaming on data, it doesn't come in quite as well. So connect yourself to a Wi-Fi connection if you can. I go up in the air like the Wi-Fi is swirling around in the air above me. So connect to a Wi-Fi and it may be better for you. Well, let me take a bracing sip of coffee here. And thank you. Mary says, great new looks. It's my last class at Jogs. Thank you, Mary. It's great to see you. You know, I miss seeing all of my students all over the world, right? All over the US, and I've taught in Canada. I've taught in a bunch of places. So I miss being on the road, but we're gonna, I've done a few fun and pandemic, I don't know if they really go together, but I've done some Zoom classes, some virtual classes, and I've got more coming up for you. So anyway, so that's coming down the pike. So thanks for your compliments, you guys, on the handout. And this is a class, I thought, since the Great Beat Extravaganza, we're a group of small companies that have banded together, and that was early on in the pandemic, and it's the brainchild of Andrew Thornton and Sarah Ayler, Andrew Thornton of Allegory Gallery and Sarah Ayler of Softflex. And I'm just happy to be along for the ride, right? There is a whole bunch of us that toss that content in. At the end of this broadcast, I'll share with you the dates for our Midsummer Market, which is our next big event, our big teaching and selling event, which is going to be great. And I'll share that at the end of the broadcast. But Andrew texted all of us earlier last week sometime, and he said, "Hey, it's Small Business Week. Let's let's do something." And we're, it's like babes in arms. I've got an old barn, I've got some costumes, let's put on a show, right? So we did. So we gathered stuff together and created this great content for Small Business Week. And if you're watching on some other platforms and not on the Great Beat Extravaganza, go over to the Great Beat Extravaganza Facebook group, and you can join. There's lots of great content in there from all of the companies that participate, as well as you can watch the content from past extravaganzas. I can't say that too well. Past extravaganzas, as well as all of the content from this week. A lot of the presenters did some really wonderful stuff. Sarah did some stuff about photography. William Jones did some stuff from on branding, and Candy Cooper did a great presentation this morning that I caught while laying in bed and drinking some coffee. So it was really great. So Christy Friesen did this great, toot your own horn one. And then we also periodically throughout the week and over time, the different companies also stream their broadcasts into the group. So it's a cool collab. It's really great to be able to be a part of that. And I really, really thank Andrew and Sarah for all the hard work that they do on it. And of course, all of my fellow companies, you guys are all awesome. So it's just great to be here. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to share with you, I have, and speaking of shows, I do this presentation at shows. When we were doing Beadfest, Interweave is the publisher of my book, right? Simple Soldering, as well as Metalsmithing Made Easy, my two books, and you can find links to those on my website at katerichbourg.com. You can, just like that little plug, that was smooth. That was a smooth little plug, I thought, yeah. But they did also Beadfest, right? Interweave did Beadfest, and after Interweave disbanded, there's a new company now that's running Beadfest, and it's going to be in a new place near Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is Andrew's neck of the woods, I believe. I don't know Pennsylvania that well, being a California girl, but for 2022, Beadfest is on, you guys. So that'll be cool. Hopefully, we'll be able to all come together in person. But this presentation that I'm going to share with you today is a 60-minute class, right, that I used to present at Beadfest, right? And people used to pay a whole bunch of money for it, which, not a whole bunch, but a nominal fee. But I thought it would be fun to present that in the spirit of Small Business Week to all you all who are watching on all these different platforms. So if you didn't download the handout, you can find it in two places. You can find it, I believe I have it on my business page, and it's also on the Great Bead Extravaganza page as well. And I think I also posted it into the group. So you can download the handout that I have, and you can follow along. You can put it on your e-reader or whatever, but I'm going to go through it today. And jump over to the Great Bead Extravaganza, and you'll see it listed there in the files section. If you haven't jumped in and looked at the files in that group or any group that you belong in, the files are kind of like a hidden treasure trove. So they're all in there. Okay. So let me see if I can do this. This is another first. I use that countdown clock. And so now I'm going to try and share my screen. So bear with me here just a second while I try and do that. Technology is so new and exciting for me. So let me see if I've got that. It looks like I did, right? I'm still talking over here, right here, and I'm talking about the handout that's right here. So I think we're good to go. I can't see all of your comments though, which is kind of a bummer. So I'm gonna kind of go back and forth and try and look at your comments periodically. Okay, so I'll do that. So okay, so here goes. Welcome to the 60-minute business workout with Kate Richbourg. That's me. And today I'm going to help you find your authentic voice to build your brand, engage your customers, and grow your business. So without any further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to just scroll through this. And some of this is going to go kind of fast because this is going to be some thinking on your part later after this. But I have my social up there, and you can see this is one of my little sayings that I have on my social, and it is learn as much as your brain can hold as often as your time allows. I kind of like that as my little moniker. So let's talk about this presentation. This presentation is made up of 3 parts, okay? We're going to talk about you and your brand. We're going to talk about engaging your customer, and then we're going to talk about growing your business, okay? And let me preface this by saying I am sharing my experiences with you, right? I've been doing this jewelry thing since 1992 is when I started on this career path. So I've been in this business a lot of years, right? So, but necessarily what my experiences are and what my advice is and what my, things that I have done in this business may not necessarily be the same for you. So I want you to really stay true to your truth and mind the kernels of information from here that, I guess it's mind the nuggets of information anyway, from here that really relate to what you've got going on, and then let the rest fall by the wayside. This isn't a race, right? This is a marathon and not a sprint, you guys. Okay. So part 1, let's look at part 1 here. We're going to talk about you and your brand. And it's not what you do, right? It's how you stand out from the crowd. Hang on, I'm going to let you watch that. The postman is here. Thank you. Hang on one second. Thank you. Okay. He shoved it all through the door here. Usually we're not here on Saturdays, but I don't like to miss the post. So there you go. I don't know. Is anyone else triggered by, I might get a letter? Anyway, sorry about that. Here I am. I'm back. I promise no more interruptions. That's the beauty of a live broadcast. Okay, so back to it. Take 2. It's not what you do, it's how you stand out from the crowd, okay? And so you want to start by crafting your story. And so I've listed some questions below to help you start crafting your story. What do I do? What do I make? And more importantly, what's my title? So I have a couple of titles that I title myself. I have kind of a foot in 2 worlds in this jewelry business. One, I make and sell jewelry that I design, right? And it's out there in the world under KateRichbourgJewelry.com. And then I also have another hat that I wear, which is Kate Richbourg Jewelry Educator. And Kate Richbourg Jewelry Educator is kind of a title I gave myself. I also have given myself the title of Omnicrafter. Because I really have, if it's a craft in the world, if it's something that has to do with putting your hands on it and creating something, I've probably done it. So Omnicrafter is kind of a title that I've given to myself. And when I say Omnicrafter, it kind of conjures up a picture in your mind, right? Kind of like Jill of all trades, right? Or that, Kate likes to dabble in a lot of different things, or that crafting is super important to her, or being in the maker world is important. All of those things, right? So then you're going to fill out that, and you don't have to answer these questions right now. Sorry, I'm going to pull this down and just double check questions. Great. And then I want to think about why is this important to me? What drives me to create, make, and sell jewelry? Um, Part of my story, why it's important to me, is that I learned how to do a lot of these things as a little girl, right? From my mother and from my grandmother. And so for me, it's really important to pass that knowledge on, right? To the world. I don't have kids. I don't have children to pass this on to. So I feel like it's my calling to share this with you, with the jewelry world or the craft world as a whole. So that's kind of my why, right? Your why, I'm sure, is probably different. And then what are some descriptive words that describe your style? Okay, what are your favorite colors? What are your favorite quotes? Your favorite influencers? If you look right behind me, there we go, on the wall right there. It's hard to see. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can read it. I have quotes all around my studio. Right, that, and I started this out with a quote, this presentation with a quote from me, right? And so this one right here is a Victor Hugo quote, and it says, it's right over my hydraulic press, it says, "There is nothing like a dream to create the future." And I have a couple of other quotes around, and I like quotes. I don't know, it might seem corny to some people, but and from those, you can, it kind of helps you kind of frame what it is that you're doing. You can also write down some descriptive words to describe your style. Are you quirky? Are you vintage? Are you modern? Are you, sleek? Whatever those are. All right. And favorite colors, right? And there are no wrong answers here. Okay. And then what are your strengths? Think about what you're really strong. Are you are you comfortable in front of a camera like I am? Are you really great with the written word? Whatever. Just write down some strengths and write down about where you shine. Where do I shine? What is really my what do I want to say, when you're in your groove, and how do you best communicate? Again, via video, via the written word, whatever. Okay. And here we'll go to page 3. But before I do, I'm going to just check for questions. Oh, it's great. Yes, people are loving quotes. It's good. I just want to double check there weren't any pressing questions right there. So we're going to go to page 3. Okay. And I want you to think about what your aha moment was. When did you encounter the fork in the road and begin the journey on the creative path that you are on now? I'm going to share this in just a short little story. Some of you have heard this before, but I was a theater arts major in college. Theater was my gig, and I taught children's theater. I worked in community theater. It was great. After graduation and working in the Bay Area theater scene for a while, I realized I should have been a business major. I mean, not really, but I had a moment of panic, right? I'm in my early 20s. I'm like, oh my gosh, no one hands you a job on a plate. What was I doing? I should have been able to, I don't know. I should have had a career path that had a more stable future, right? So I got a job at Apple Computer instead. Right? Because in those days, in the early 90s, you looked in the newspaper and you went to like a temp agency, right? And it was pretty easy to, the Silicon Valley was starting the Silicon Valley, right? But you were still able to kind of, things were still pretty casual, right? So I got a job at Apple. I lasted 8 months at Apple Computer in a cube. 8 months. And I learned that it wasn't for me. And I thought, you know what? I didn't need to be a business major. So I thought, I'm going to go back to school because teaching was really my passion. And then I was looking through the paper, thinking about, leaving Apple. I saw an ad in the paper that said, "The bead shop is hiring." And I went, bead shop, a store that sells beads and only beads. Count me in. So not too long afterwards, I interviewed. I got the job as the assistant manager. Never went back to school, but I did start my education in the jewelry world, right? I'd always made jewelry, but I really started to learn. And then from that day in August 1992 to this May 8th, 2001, it's been an incredible journey, right? So that was my aha moment when I realized that I could not spend the rest of my life in a cube. I couldn't. And so I forged my own path. My jewelry design business and stuff has grown over those years. So that's a little bit of my story. And I think that people love to know your story, right? And so that's really important. So make some notes. And then you want to think about, who do I want to reach, right? Who's my customer? And where do I find my tribe? And once right now, the internet is amazing for, reaching out, for outreach, for finding customers, for live sales, all of those things. Now, as the pandemic, things are slowly opening up, right? You will be able to sell more in person and things like that. You want to start small. And then you want to scale, okay? So take a look at your answers and use these thoughts to transcribe your story in your authentic voice. Customers want to hear about you. You're the star of the show, right? So let that star shine. And you can use these answers to start to plug them in for different building blocks to create your business, okay? So, what you're going to do with some of these answers is you can use them to create a brand identity, right? Choose a color palette, a consistent font, a logo, a photo style, and marketing materials. All of those things will come out of your story and the things that you feel kind of inside, right? You can also use them as a frame of reference or a guide for your brand principles to create a consistent experience for you as a business owner and for your customer. So if things like customer satisfaction is super important to you, right? When you're a consumer, you're like, wow, it really feels special to me when I feel like a business or a small business that I patronize, when I feel seen, right? Start to write those thoughts down, like if that's something that really is important to you, or something, buying handmade or buying a really well-crafted piece, is that something that's super important to you? Is hiring and supporting a small team of workers, is that super important to you? So start to write that down, because I think that people who buy from you also want to connect with kind of your brand and kind of the principles and ideas that you bring to that brand. Okay. So let's go to part two. Before I go to part two, I'm going to scoot down here and see. Oh, hello, everybody. It's great to see you. I see Brittany's watching. Hi, Britt. It's good to have you watching. Lorraine jumped on and showed her aha moment when she began watching me and Janice of beadshop.com and learning about beads, techniques, and quality work. Thank you so much. That comment just makes my day. Renee is saying she's been retired and she's loving it, and that those retirement years, Renee, that's awesome. You'll have all that time to start creating, which is wonderful. That's wonderful. That's great. So good. I thank you for those great comments there. So let's look at part two. Okay, engaging your customer. We don't have a business if we don't have a customer. Right? And wherever you are, sorry, my turntable is turning a little bit here. Wherever you are in your business journey, you guys, if it's small, if it's just starting out, if you're like, I'm thinking about selling to some friends, or, oh, I'm thinking about opening an Etsy store, or, I'm scaling up to get my kind of small business next to the next level to, your mid-sized business. Whatever it is, you guys, if we don't have customers, we don't have a business, right? So keep it interesting for yourself, and that excitement will translate over and resonate with your customer. Okay, so I'll just read this out here. Customer engagement is an important part of what you do as a small jewelry business owner, or maybe a jewelry small business owner. Maybe I have those words out of order, but maybe a small jewelry, big jewelry, whatever. I need to fix that. Can't believe all the years I'm using this handout, and I'm just noticing it now. Whatever. Proofing is never my strong point. As we've discussed earlier, it's not only what you do, but how you stand out from the crowd. I mean, there are a lot of people making jewelry out in the world, right? So when you engage more customers, that can translate into more sales, exposure, and followers. You don't have to do everything on the list below. Pick what forms of sales, communication, and engagement work with your brand identity. Remember that we are working in a niche culture. The quality of your content and followers are much more valuable than just some random thoughts thrown out to a bunch of faceless followers, right? You want to target who it is that you are speaking to. And then leverage that content to fit the variety of platforms that you use. One idea can translate into different forms depending on where it's used, right? So I want to tell a story about Emily Miller, and Emily has no idea that I'm telling the story about her. And so since she's my friend, I'm going to tell it anyway. Some of you may know Emily from the streams that I've done on beadshop.com, and maybe some of you have even taken her classes in person when she was the class director over at Baubles and Beads in Berkeley. And Emily is a very, very gifted instructor, but also a very, very gifted jewelry designer. And you can follow Emily. If you look on Instagram, you can find her. I think it's Emily Miller Designs. And she has been on this jewelry making journey in earnest for the past few years now. And she has really started to, ever since now things have kind of started to open up, right? She was doing stuff and posting stuff on Instagram. But Emily is someone who really likes to connect with people, really likes to speak with people, really does really well in person. She was great as the class director and as an instructor. And so she's leveraged that talent into her local shows, her local farmers markets, right? So Emily has picked up her stuff, gone on the road, and up in Sacramento, she has been very consistently, since things opened back up, of course, with social distancing and masks and hand washing and all of that. She's very safe and, thank goodness, vaccinated. But she has created quite a following with her local farmers market, with her consistency of brand, with her consistency of product, and with her approachability. And it's all really working for her. So she has created this customer engagement, and really it's helped her to stand out from the crowd because, some farmers markets have several jewelry makers there, right? So she kind of looked around and tried to put her finger on, what way can I stand out? So anyway, I digress. A little bit of Emily's story, but it's really working for her. Okay, so let's take a look at some platforms for customer engagement and sales opportunities. Now, of course, with 2020 into 2021, we've had this kind of pandemic issue, and we're not quite out of the woods yet, you guys, right? So while things are opening up slowly, the fabric of how we buy things has changed a little bit in the past few years, and I think will continue to change and evolve, right? So some of the platforms I have out here, festivals and trade shows, I'd throw farmers markets into those as well, because Emily's really opened my eyes to kind of these are kind of makers markets. My other buddy Jess, she does, it's called Handmade. It's the one up in, I'm going to look real quick. It's the one up in Sebastopol, Handmade. It'll come to me in my head. But those kind of maker markets that are kind of really popular right now, I think they're kind of a unique and original way to kind of brand yourself. They're kind of halfway between Head West, that's what it's called. Thank you. Head west in Sebastopol. But these small maker markets, I think, give you kind of an opportunity to, they're kind of halfway between trade show and like craft fair, right? It's kind of, it's an interesting dynamic. So there are all over the country, a lot of different places do kind of these maker markets. Check out Head West. That's out here in California. It'll give you kind of an idea. There's another one. It's called Junk in the Trunk, which is kind of cute. It's kind of here on the West Coast. So, you know, do a little bit of Instagram exploring on those and you'll kind of get the vibe from there. And they're usually, the booth fees and stuff are not usually exorbitant. So it's a great way to go. And it's also a great way to engage with customers. Of course, brick and mortar stores, if you want to sell your jewelry in stores. I've had my jewelry in stores before. It's great. But I like the immediacy of meeting my customer and doing a lot of selling face-to-face or doing selling on my website. But stores are great, but stores are a whole new ball of wax, right? A whole new thing. So you want to be mindful about the kind of work that goes into, you know, creating a line for stores. Especially, I'll tell you, not doing one of a kinds, but doing like repeat work and stuff. It's a whole ball of wax there. Trunk shows are great. In pre-pandemic and hopefully post-pandemic times, you would go and you'd host a trunk show at a small boutique or maybe someone's studio, and you sell your pieces directly to customers that come see you. And of course, we've got e-commerce sales. We've got a website, we've got Etsy, we've got Instagram, we've got Facebook Live sales. The world of e-commerce sales is huge right now. And of course, you can engage your customer on social media. We touched about it a little bit, right? Insta, your Facebook business page or a group, streaming video like I'm doing to you right now on Facebook, or you can stream directly into your YouTube channel. You can do Instagram TV. You can do reels, you know, videotape reels. All of those things are Instagram stories. Okay, so all of these places are opportunities for you to engage your customer. I'm going to take a look here at quick questions to see. I love how you're talking about retirement. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, and someone brought up consignment fees. Consignment fees can be high. I want to talk a little bit about consignment and stuff in brick and mortar stores. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my experience, and people can chime in if you've had it. There's a difference between selling your pieces outright. Brittany and I have had this conversation before about selling your pieces outright to stores, right, as a designer, and consigning your pieces to a store. And when you're just starting out, it can feel flattering. And I've done it, right? I've put my stuff in stores. I've consigned it before. And it feels super flattering that someone, you know, like if someone says, you know, oh, I've got this little gallery, or, oh, I've got this hair salon, or, oh, I've got, you know, whatever it is they've got, antique mall place or whatever. You know, you want to put your jewelry in there. And your first answer is, yeah, I do. I've got all this jewelry sitting around. Yeah, I'd love to. Well, think about after that initial rush of, yeah, this is going to be awesome. You also have to think about, yeah, I've got to protect myself and my jewelry, right? So you want to think about, and you can find a lot of this stuff online about creating a contract, because I've done it both ways, right? Early on in my career, put my jewelry out there, did not have a contract. If the jewelry walked away, was not that, you know, the gallery was not responsible for paying me because we didn't have it in writing, right? I was young. I learned quickly, right? So you want to think about the terms. Think about, you know, what you want as a designer, what the cut is, right? Because remember, if you're consigning your jewelry is going to decorate that place, that consignment, You know, it's going to decorate that gallery, right? Because the owner isn't purchasing it, right? So what feels comfortable for you? You know, what's your price point? What, you know, think about all of those things because they all come into play. Okay. So think of, and people are remarking, I see here in the chat, people are remarking about consignment fees, right? And ask for references if you're consigning, especially in, you know, higher end boutiques or stores or whatever. Ask for references. Why not? Or look and see what other artists are in there and then ask them for their experience. It's not a bad thing to do. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up. That's a whole other pricing your jewelry, selling your jewelry, all of that is a whole other talk that maybe we'll have later, not in this one. Okay, so fill those things out, and that should help you. I also don't let social media scare you. Okay, start small, jump in, make sure you have an Instagram page, you guys, and make sure that you also, even if you're thinking about using your name as your URL or in your jewelry designs, grab that name. You know, if you have a name that's fairly common, you know, Smith, Jones, whatever, it may already be taken, but if you have a more unusual name, the URL probably is out there. Right? And you don't even have to follow it with some kind of qualifier. You know, my website is katerichbourg.com. My jewelry website is Kate Richbourg Jewelry, and then you can I link back and forth between the two. But grab your URL just so you have it. It's very inexpensive. You know, go to one of the hosting places and grab it just so you have it. Okay, and put it on autopay so you don't lose it. Ask me how I know on that one. So anyway, put it on autopay. Let's go to part 3 here. Growing your business. So a trip is a lot easier if you have a map, okay, or a GPS, or at least some random guidelines that are scribbled down on a piece of paper. Okay, so the stuff that I've tossed out to you today, it's really just kind of a framework, and there's a lot to think about, right? So Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your successful small business. So you want to start by assigning yourself manageable tasks. I cannot stress enough about manageable tasks. I always have these grand plans in my head about, oh, I'm going to do this, or oh, I'm going to go there, whatever. And in order to stepping stone to that grand plan, I have a bunch of manageable tasks that help me get there. Okay. You may want to find a business buddy to check in with to keep you accountable. That's the other thing I love about the Great Bead Extravaganza. There's a whole bunch of business owners on there that have been my friends forever, right? In the many years that I've been on this. And we keep each other accountable, which is great. So try and find your tribe that will, even if it's someone who's in a different business, doesn't have to be a jewelry business, right? Help to keep you accountable. The encouragement of a peer can provide trusted feedback that'll keep you on the right track. So before I go to that next part, let me quickly look at the questions here. And I want to say, someone is saying that social media does overwhelm me, particularly Instagram. I don't know it well, but you're teaching yourself. That's great, you know. And there's lots of, you know, if you jump on YouTube, there's a flippin' tutorial for everything, right? So jump over to YouTube and watch a few Instagram tutorials. It'll get you in the right place. One of the things that I would say about Instagram is that Instagram is like your highlight reel, right? So first, take Instagram, and I should do an Instagram. I should do an Instagram live about Instagram because I don't use it all to its big advantage as well. But I love it. I love Insta. I follow a lot of people. But think of Instagram as your highlight reel, right? And as your brand ambassador. So when you're scrolling along on your phone, right, and you click into someone's profile, you'll see a grid of 9 photos there, right? Take a look at those 9 photos with a critical eye, right? And do those photos, are they telling a story about you and your brand? I mean, some people have their Instagram just to post photos of their dogs and their what they made for dinner and stuff like that, and that's cool, right? But if you're doing it for business, you want to keep it business focused with a few surprises popped in here or there, right? That help your customer and relate to you. So there's just such a ton of Instagram, and then there's Instagram stories and there's reels. There's a lot. So let me think about that. But do a search on YouTube for some Instagram tutorials. I bet you'll find one there. And also photography is pretty important there. So maybe we'll mine the depths of doing some photography with your phone. It looks like Instagram instruction is a big one. So I'll write it on my list. I will. Hold me to that, because I would love to share that with you. Laura's saying here, she said she's had her business name parked for several years now, and you may actually use it someday. I love that. You know, at least you have it. That's the thing. Because once it's out there or once someone else has it, it's really hard to get it back. Okay. Or expensive. One of those two. Okay. So let's go over here. Let's look the second part of this part 3. So let's start that random scribbling right now. Doesn't have to be right now, but maybe after this broadcast. Okay. Jot down some thoughts, impressions, notes, and guidelines that just come to mind. Okay. Keep in mind what your priorities are. Like, I need a website, or I want to engage more people on social media. Okay. Whatever makes the most sense for your individual action plan. Okay. So throw out some big ideas and long-term goals. Whatever it is. I need a website. I want to design a jewelry line. I want to make my jewelry line more cohesive. I want to get more comfortable on social media. I need to hone my photography skills, whatever that is. Okay. Then write down some needs. What's going to happen to move your business, or that thought? What needs to happen to move that forward? Well, let's say that it's, I want to get better at photography. That's one of my big long-term goals, right? Well, then you start to kind of break that down. Like, okay, so what's got to happen to move my business forward, right? Well, do I have a good camera? Can I use my mobile? Am I going to need a DSLR camera? What am I going to need? Do I need backgrounds? Do I need all these things, right? What's got to happen to move that portion of your business forward? Or you can think even larger, right, in needs. Like, I need a website. I need some business cards. Whatever it is, whatever is right for your story, okay? And then wants. I really wish I had, I really wish I had a dedicated space to work in. I really wish I had someone to help me do all this, I really wish I had another cat. Maybe that's just me, all right? Then you start to create an action plan. What can you do today? Maybe today you fill out this action plan. Maybe that's something you can do. Maybe after this broadcast, you go to like GoDaddy.com or wherever you want to host your domain name, and you start looking up domain names, right? And buying it, actually buying it, right? What can you do this week? Well, maybe this week you'll watch a YouTube tutorial on something that relates to your business, okay? What can you do this month? Maybe get out your day planner and say, all right, on this date, by this date, and circle it, I will have done this. And then what can I do this year? Maybe this year your goal is to get that website up and running, or at least get that website, built, learn more about what type of website you want, or maybe no website. Maybe you want to do some in-person sales, and what is it going to take, especially now in this pandemic world, to get those, to get that going. Okay. Then you can take some more notes on that. So I'm going to look here for Some people saying, aren't 3 cats enough? Kate, 3 cats are never enough, you guys. So I want to share here with you this mind mapping technique. And I talked about this when I was on Katie Hacker's Jewelry podcast. If you don't know it, it's the Interweave Jewelry podcast hosted by Katie Hacker. And I kicked off her second season. We had a nice chat and we chatted a lot about this mind mapping technique to kind of help you out with business. It was a lot of fun. Give it a listen. What do they say? Like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. But it's a great one. She's had some really interesting and fun guests on there. So when I am confronted with an issue, a lot of times I create a mind map, and I got this mind map idea. It's out there. It's a technique that is out in the world. And it also, if you've ever taken like a creative writing class, like clustering your ideas all over the place, right? Clustering. And then you kind of start to pull things from those different clusters, and then you start to write and all of a sudden you're an amazing writer, right? So, but a mind map, what it is it's a graphical way to represent ideas and concepts. It's a visual thinking tool used to lay out information, helping you to better analyze, comprehend, synthesize, recall, and generate new ideas. And it's often created around a single concept, starting as an image in the center of a blank page, and then associated representations of ideas like images or words or parts of words are all added to it. Okay, so in this exercise, when you choose to do it, you'll choose your starting point and you're going to write it in the center bubble. Okay, maybe it's simply your name. Another typo, I see that there. Really? I've got to fix that. The name of your business or a business goal that you really want to work on. Okay, don't think too much about this one. Just write it down. Then you're going to follow it up by adding layers of ideas in the surrounding bubbles. And you don't have to use this printout that I gave you, right? You can use a big piece of butcher paper or a blank sheet or a sheet in your notebook, whatever. You follow up by adding layers of ideas in the surrounding bubbles, and you get more and more detailed and focused the further you radiate out. All right. And so the template that I've given you is just this, right? You write something in the center and then you start going out. Okay, so I hope that's helpful for you, and you can come in and whatever it is, and then the second level start getting a little more detailed, and then as it goes out, like if we started about website here, right in the center where it says start here, and then if we go to the bubble above it, maybe I would put photography, right? And then in the square above that, I'd put improve photography skills. And then maybe I'd put some bubbles around that saying, check camera equipment, go over my, techniques in Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever. And, or look at photo editing software or look at backgrounds for photos, all of those things. So it kind of is a trail. And then from those little small bubbles that are there, you can start to pick some goals and then work towards that big goal. Okay, so let me see. Great. Okay, just making sure there aren't any other questions there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because that's really the end of this handout. So let me do that. Let me come back to the center here. I did want to share a couple of things in the spirit of Candy Cooper. She did share some of her packaging materials and stuff like that. So I wanted to share these with you and some resources about that, just so that you have them. And I think that there are pieces that kind of bring my brand together as a whole when we're talking about branding and bringing your brand together. So I'm going to add my camera here into this stream. So bear with me here just a second. And so you can see here what I've got. And I'm going to highlight this so you guys can see it, and I'm going to talk about this stuff here real quick. These are things that I use in my branding, and not only in like where I sell my jewelry, but if I'm writing thank you notes or if I'm in a class and I give students little mementos from class, right? So these are all pieces here that have kind of a similar look and feel, right? And, you know, my vibe is kind of vintage, like vintage modern, right? I like things that look old. This is one of my backgrounds that I use to take photographs with. And the photographs, this is just a little wood background thing that I bought at, I think, Joann's Fabrics, right? So sometimes I take photos on it, which is kind of fun. And so I wanted to share this with you. Candy is a big proponent of like rubber stamps, right? And so one of the ideas I wanted to share with you here, this is my Stays On ink. We've all got our Stays On, right? And I'm going to use that rubber stamp, this Kate Richbourg jewelry rubber stamp that I got made off of, you know, Etsy. There's always an Etsy seller doing a stamp. And I'll just go ahead and I'll use these little muslin bags. These are from Paper Mart. I get them from Paper Mart. And I just stamp it right on the bag. Okay, and you can see it looks kind of vintagey, and that's ready to go. There's my jewelry bag. So I don't have to have them custom printed. It's a very inexpensive solution that goes with the visual look of my pieces. Okay, I also, there is an Etsy seller, and you can find these on Etsy. I get jewelry cards made. I got them with my logo, and I made my logo. I did a little bit of playing around with some pre-made logo templates. There's a ton that are out there, and then I kind of put it into Photoshop and played around with it. So, you know, it's not perfect, but I kind of like it, and I use it all the time. I like stars. I kind of like how this has maybe a little bit of a vintage feel to it, a little Art Deco. It also feels like, you know, it's soaring. We're reaching for the stars. So, you know, kind of pulls all that together. Then I've got my thank you card. When I package my jewelry in, I really want people to know that I'm super thankful for what their purchase, as well as I have a little blurb that says thanks, you know, and kind of mine says adornment with a vintage vibe from a fanciful imagination. Each piece is formed, fired, and finished by me. Treat with care and clean using a polishing cloth. Wear in health and happiness. And then it has my hashtag solder like a lady. Okay, so and these are all photos, though now that I've changed my hair, I think I probably need a fresh photo, but these are photos I had. There was a photographer who was doing like profiles on San Francisco artists or whatever. So I was really lucky that they came to my studio in South City when I had it there and took a bunch of photos. It was cool for that to happen. So that's why I have kind of all of these really cool professional photos. But see if you can do some jewelry trade. You know, good photos are really worth it. And so I've used it here. This is also a little sticker that I put on the outside of your packages. And I have always loved glassine bags, right? They've always kind of done it for me. Maybe it's getting candy in them when I was little or whatever. But I put my pieces in bags like this, right? And then I fold them over, and then I put that little sticker on the outside, right? So, so those work out nicely. I've got a new thank you card. I forgot to grab it. I've got a new one here. Let me see where did those thank you cards go? So I step out of the frame, and I'll show you. These are from U Printing. I'll show you right here. I get them from U Printing. These guys. I also use Vistaprint, but U Printing is where I get my stickers, and I also got my buttons made when I teach class. These are when people take my classes. They get to choose some buttons. They're Sawing Genius, Solder Like a Lady, I Play with Fire, or Metal is My Spirit Animal, and they can put it on their like apron, their work apron or whatever. So I hand those out in my class. And then I've got these thank you cards. I just got these at Vistaprint, is where I got these. Just to thank you again. You can see, does that background look familiar? This background? That was this right here, right? And then I used another one of those black and whites. Put a little screen on the back, adornment with a vintage vibe from a imagination. There's my logo and my website. And I designed all these. They're not like amazing pieces of, art, but they get the story across, and they all look like they go together, right? This brand is all together. I also got these little jewelry tags, again, from an Etsy seller. And I connect those tags onto things because again, they feel old fashioned and vintage. I use these little bulb pins, like this. So they go on like that. And then they're kind of fun, and people save them. I always save these little safety pins that I get. And then I did these. These were just thank you cards that I have. And I got them, I just did them on Vistaprint. And this is just a stock thing from Vistaprint. I wanted a little color. And one of my sayings, I'm the boss of my beads. You guys have heard me say that again and again. And just, you can write there on the back. So that was just a little overview of some of my things. But again, Etsy, I get these guys here from Paper Mart, my bags here, my glassine bags. U printing for these guys here and these here. Okay, so that's it, right? And someone said here in the chat, I've got a friend who's a graphic designer. We traded jewelry for a new logo design. That's great as well. Jewelry, people want jewelry, and especially if you think around Mother's Day, right? Mother's Day is a great jewelry holiday, right? And you can trade. We would trade. When I had my store up in San Francisco, when I had Bellissimo in the city, we were next to this really great independent music store called Aquarius Records. And we would trade. We would make jewelry for the employees, right, of Aquarius, or if it was like, around a holiday or whatever, we'd trade music for the store. And make their jewelry for whoever, earrings for their mom, or, whatever, bracelet for their girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. So it was cool. So, use those bartering skills. It's great. So, and thank you. Sarah said she ordered a pendant from me recently and was impressed with my lovely packaging. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Candy was talking about it in her talk from earlier, and it really resonated with me, and it got me really fired up to think about packaging, because packaging, not only are you selling the piece, or sending that piece to that customer, but you're also selling and sending your brand and your look and the care that you take. We make this handmade jewelry. We're not selling, I don't know, pre-made. Well, sometimes, but you know what I mean. We're selling quality stuff, right? So you want it to look good, right? And you want that heart, that care that you put in your jewelry also resonate with your promo materials and stuff. I'm going to show you. Someone asked, and I'm sorry, I can't see. Sometimes if you don't authorize your name with StreamYard, that's what I'm using for my streaming platform, I can't see who this is. So, but you're asking what graphic program do you recommend, Photoshop or something else? So I'm going to tell you a secret right now, and then our hour is about up. But I'm going to show you this. I'm going to take my I'm going to take this camera out of the stream. Bear with me here just a second. And I'm going to show you on my phone what it is that I use. Sorry about that. A little bit of feedback. I think I got myself out of there. Sorry. I hate that feedback. I'm going to take this down. Let me get that out of the way. So I do a lot of stuff on my phone. Okay, so I'll show you right here. I use Lightroom. And you can see some of you who, might even recognize some of these photos. I love Lightroom. It's great for editing on the fly. And what I do, and you can, again, I've watched different tutorials and stuff. Whoops, sorry. Sorry about that. Sorry, I hit something and a piece of metal fell, but we're all right. What you do basically, and I'll show you this. It's kind of hard for you to see, but I'll come in. Let me grab a photo from my camera roll. Let me see if I have something that's not a selfie. Let me look here. Right, when I want a photo of something I've made, I can't find it. Let me see. I'll grab this photo. It's not a great one, but I'll show you. Okay, so I've grabbed kind of this random photo of a ring that's on my bench. Okay, and so I'll come in, and if you look down here, right, I'll come in and I'll start by cropping that photo. Okay, so I'll crop it in a little tighter, and if I need it to be a certain size, I'll get it square. Okay, you can kind of see that, right? And then I'll hit this that little check mark. Okay, now the thing that you could do is you could play with the color and do all of this, but what I want you to do is I want you to look up presets on Lightroom. Okay, I just dropped something else on the floor. Presets are, I have a bunch of different ones that I use here. I have one specifically that I call Jewelry Edit. I hit Jewelry Edit and it brightens. This is all metal, so it's made it a little too bright, right? But it'll put the same setting on all my photos. So when I look at a picture, if I'm looking at all my photos on my website or on my Insta or whatever, or if I want everything to match, right? I'll have that preset, and so they all look similar. Okay, so I'll click the preset, and if it's too blown out, I'll come back here over to light, and I'll pull that exposure down. It's a little hard to see, right? Like that. So that's hardly a tutorial, but Lightroom is great for your phone. And it's, I don't know, there's a subscription for it. It's not that expensive. But you're able to, and I'll show you, I've done some other, like with this one here, right? So I've edited a whole bunch of piece of photos right on Lightroom here. And then I just send them, I airdrop them right over to my computer. So this is a really fast and powerful tool for you guys. I love Lightroom. I love it. I love it. I love it. So that's a little quick down and dirty tutorial, but you can find a lot of great tutorials about it as well. So the handout, a couple of you asked about that. It's in the group, and I'll go ahead and I'll make sure that it's in the Great Beat Extravaganza under files. I also linked it in my Create with Kate Richbourg group, and it's also, I'll make sure it's in the files in the Kate Richbourg Jewelry Educator. Okay, so you can find that anywhere you go. I did also promise that I would share the dates for our next Midsummer Market for Great Bead Extravaganza. On this one, for me, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to put it up right here. The next time we're doing this, it's called Midsummer Market. You want to save the date. There's a preview night on Friday, June 11th, and then the show dates are Saturday and Sunday, June 12th and 13th. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a little metalsmithing on that one for you. I think you're going to like it. Even if you haven't done any metal work, it's super accessible to you guys for even if you haven't done metal work. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, all of these replays, you can watch them all together on the Great Bead Extravaganza page. They are in the announcements section. You can find it there, and they'll be there for you to watch and rewatch as well. So again, thank you guys so much for joining me. You can find me on all of these social media platforms. I'd love to see you over on my group. You just have to answer a couple of questions. I'd be glad to have you over there. You can follow me on my Insta. And of course, if you're watching on either the Great Beat Extravaganza YouTube channel or my YouTube channel, Kate Richbourg, do give it a subscribe so you'll know when new content comes up. So that does it for me. I'm going to keep having some more coffee. I'm going to do a little metal work today, fire up that torch, fire up the big torch, and I will see you guys soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy. We really always, always, always appreciate your support. Big thanks and shout outs to both Sarah Ayler and Andrew Thornton of Softflex and Allegory Gallery, respectively. Thank you so much for giving us the prompts to kind of do this little off-the-cuff Small Business Week presentation. So we'll see you guys for Midsummer Market in June. Mark those calendars. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much, everybody.